Okay. I will talk about the lively stuff. I'm sorry, guys, I'm on West Coast time and it's weird, and then we drank all day yesterday and all baseball last night. Okay, I needed to sleep on it. So, let me pull back to like the mechanism that's being used here. So this is what's interesting. So the mechanism that brought all this to our attention is a motion to compel. It's a motion to compel discovery, which I think hopefully you've all gotten used to understanding what that is. Someone asks for discovery, the person they've asked it from says, no, you can't have it. You go to the judge to compel that discovery, have that dispute. So Wayfarer filed a motion to compel discovery they had requested that were medical records for Blake Lively, and they were specifically her mental health records, which are pretty standard discovery requests in a case where part of the damages that she has claimed is severe emotional distress. And she said, no, I'm not turning those over. I don't want you to have those. And Wayfair, they had the discussion, and Wayfair was like, then you're going to have to drop the claims because, you can't prove those claims. You can't prove that you were inflicted with emotional distress to the extent that you have a legal remedy without showing us what your emotional records are, what your changes are, what your healthcare providers and mental health practitioners have seen, which is true. And so they said, okay, well, you know what? I guess she really doesn't want to give these records over. So they said, we will drop two of our claims. We will drop the intentional infliction of emotional distress and negligent infliction of emotional distress, which are kind of two flavors of the same thing. Both of those claims are about the smear campaign. They are sort of add-on claims. Remember, she's got 13 claims in her complaint, and she claims the sexual harassment, the retaliation, some breach of contract, the intentional infliction, and the negligent infliction, which is just like reckless disregard, even if you didn't have intent. About the smear campaign to say, this so upset me and so hurt me, it's outrageous behavior, it's beyond the bounds of what society expects, and I was severely emotionally damaged. So they said, okay, we will withdraw those claims because we recognize that we can't prove those claims if we don't give you that discovery. Okay, fine. So everyone's in agreement. Wayfair then puts together a stipulation to say, you're withdrawing these claims, which is pretty standard also. The parties hereby stipulate that she's going to withdraw claims, whatever they are, 9 and 10, 11 and 12, I can't remember. Her lawyer then responds with some red line changes. And one of the red line changes is changing the withdrawal from with prejudice to without prejudice. Meaning, we're withdrawing these, but we can refile them later if we want to. And that's when the Wayfarer people went to the court and were like, look, they said they were going to withdraw the claims, but now they say they're going to withdraw them without prejudice so they can bring them again. If they can still bring them again, we still need the discovery. Because if these claims can become live in this litigation again, we need this information to deal with these claims. So the judge cannot decide on a motion to compel how Lively withdraws her own claims, right? It's up to her. She can withdraw them without prejudice, meaning she can file them again, or she can withdraw them with prejudice. That's totally up to her. The judge cannot direct her what she can do, right? She can do that with her lawyer. What the judge can do, and I think what Wayfair is sort of sideways asking them to do, is to say, if they are not fully withdrawn with prejudice, then we still have a right to the information, because on any random Tuesday, she could just say, you know what, I'm adding them back in. And then we will have to scramble to defend claims that we thought were gone. Now, a couple things. One, the statute of limitations for intentional infliction of emotional distress in California is 2 years from the incident. So she would potentially have, I think if you withdraw them even without prejudice, I don't think that, like, there's things you can do with the statute of limitations where you can, like, relate back if something was filed that was similar to it. I don't think any of that would count. Let's just assume that it doesn't. That means that if the smear campaign was in 2024, late 2024, that she would have until late 2026 to refile these things. So it's not as if the Wayfarer folks can be like, okay, well, if she withdraws them, the statute has run, and, even if she tried to refile them, we could get them dismissed, right? So they very much still could come back into the case. No lawyer likes to withdraw anything with prejudice, right? Because it's always like, but what if we need it? When you settle a case, you always have to settle if you're the plaintiff, you always have to settle the matters with prejudice. Otherwise, why would the other party enter into settlement if they thought that you could bring the claims again? But it feels icky sometimes. So I understand the instinct there. But in this case, these claims are really duplicative of the retaliation claim anyway. It's the same damages. So I don't really understand, I understand like the safety blanket of like, oh, well, we could always refile, but like you don't need it to get those damages to prove those things really, other than putting the burden on yourself to prove that it was an intentional act with intentional infliction, where you don't have to do that for retaliation. So I don't really see what the benefit is there. Here's the other thing. And I saw that the Lively people filed a response last night that was pretty snarky. And, again, they were like, they should be sanctioned because this isn't the right mechanism for this. This isn't the right motion. And it's not sanctionable. It's a little, like, a motion to compel is a weird mechanism for it, right? Because I think the judge might be like, what do you want me to do? I can't tell her how to withdraw her claims. If she won't withdraw her claims, but then I think the Wayfarer people are like, but if she won't withdraw her claims without prejudice, then wouldn't you agree that we need the information? But, emotional damage is part of the damages for many of her claims, including sexual harassment and including retaliation. So it's not as if this issue is completely off the table if she withdraws these claims. If she withdraws these claims, then it seems that she thinks that she can prove the emotional damage for those other claims without medical records. Just by saying, I was sad, my friend saw that I was sad, blah, blah, blah. Which is possible. It's not as compelling, but it's possible. But it makes me wonder if in those records there are things that are there's got to be stuff that goes beyond just this case, like stuff in her marriage, issues with her mom, whatever, that she has decided it is not worth it to turn those over and to drop those claims, which is a perfectly rational thing to do. But I think what the Wayfarer people are trying to point out is you're trying to have it both ways. You're trying to say, I'm not going to give you those records, therefore I'll just drop the claims. But I'm not really going to drop the claims. I'm going to withdraw them, and I'm not going to actively prosecute them, but I'm going to add them back in whenever I want to. Now, to be fair, we are now past the first free amendment, so she'd have to ask the judge to bring them back in. But I think what Wayfarer is worried about is she brings those claims back in right before trial, and then all of a sudden we have to continue the trial. So that's what's going on. I don't know if the judge will hear it or not hear it, or speak on it or not speak on it. He may be like, why don't you people figure this out on your own? She can deal with her claims. And if she only signs without prejudice, then I guess they can go back and say, okay, now she's officially signed it only without prejudice, so we need to compel these documents and see where it goes from there. But yeah, it's getting real chippy out there. But I think this is some good insight into how far is she really willing to go when it comes to litigating in the open book you have to make yourself when you claim damages. It's no joke. And I think she's learning that now.